Okay, so Avatar 2 is out in theaters right now. It's actually out in theaters. I can't believe I'm saying that. Avatar 2 is in theaters right now, and we can watch it. Isn't that crazy? So Avatar 2 The Way of Water has Avatar The Way of Water has finally released, and I was never the biggest fan of the first one. I always enjoyed the first Avatar movie, but it wasn't the craziest thing to me. It wasn't this huge. It was a big movie. It was a big blockbuster movie, but it wasn't, story-wise, it wasn't insane. It was a very basic. It was a very basic plot. There wasn't anything crazy about it. The characters weren't too memorable. They were good, but they weren't too memorable. The acting was good all over. You know, they had great actors. That wasn't a problem. It was just the characters they were portraying. And for someone like James Cameron, who directed Terminator and Terminator 2 Judgment Day and Aliens, some of the best action movies of all time. Terminator 2 is still, in my opinion, the greatest action movie of all time. So, for James Cameron to be directing a movie where the characters aren't as memorable as they could have been, like in Aliens or Terminator or even Titanic, that was a bit of a letdown, but of course it still felt big. It was a big spectacle. It was huge. The CGI was amazing. Pandora was just such a beautiful place. So with this movie coming out, I didn't have too much expectations for it. I knew it was going to look beautiful, but I wasn't sure how the plot was going to be and how the characters were going to be. I didn't really care too much about them in the first one, so I wasn't sure how much I was going to care about them in this one. But of course, the fact that James Cameron was still working on it, and the fact that he's pretty much dedicated the rest of his life into this universe, this Pandora Avatar universe, it got me thinking that yes, there's possibly something good in here. And obviously there's going to be something good, but something perfect, something great, I don't know, but let's hope. And after seeing this movie, I would say this movie is a freaking blockbuster. This movie is huge, it's big, and you can tell James Cameron took his time crafting this movie. Do I love it? I don't know if I'd say I'd love it, but I'd say I'm pretty close to saying that I would love it. If you love the first one, you're gonna love this one. If you like the first one, you're gonna like this one. If you thought the first one was okay, you're gonna think this one's okay. If you didn't like the first one, you might not like this one. And if you hated the first one, you're probably gonna hate this one, because this movie is very similar to the first one. It's about Jake Sully, pretty much. Yeah, I think it shares the same plot as the first one, where Jake Sully is thrown into a new environment. In the first one, it was just him going to Pandora in the first place, and now it's just him going into like another tribe and learning the way of water. You know, the title of the movie, to where he was learning the way of the forest, and now he's learning the way of water, and it's a very different environment with different people and different ideologies. So he's pretty much has to start all over and learn everything again. But this time, he's doing it with his family. So the gap that it took from making the first Avatar movie to this one, I think it's the exact same years as the gap in their universe. So now he has a family. He has 4 kids. I was surprised when I heard that there was actually going to be 4 kids. I thought it was going to be maybe like he's going to have 1 or 2, but he has 4 kids. And to my surprise, I think each 4 of them became memorable. By the end of the movie, I remembered all 4 of them, and I remembered who they were, their characteristics, and pretty much what they stood for, what they believed in, how they acted. I didn't think I was going to get that. From the beginning of the movie, when it's, you know, he kind of narrates, Jake Sully, saying that he has 4 kids. I thought to myself, I know it's a 3-hour movie, but I don't know, because of the characters in the first movie that I wasn't too crazy about, I don't know how comfortable I'm going to get with these characters and how much I'm going to get to know them. 4 new characters, 4 new kids in a 3-hour movie. Yeah, it's just 3 hours, but that's a lot of characters to be introduced to, and also you have to reintroduce the previous characters, because it's a bit of a spoiler, but at the same time it's not, because it's been in all the trailers. A lot of the characters that sort of died in the first movie come back in this movie. So, you know, if you haven't seen any of the trailers, then I'm not going to say which characters, but if you have, you kind of know which characters come back. So, you know, not too much of a spoiler. It's not like a big thing, because I'm pretty sure it's been marketed all over the place to the returning characters. But yeah, so you got to reintroduce those and introduce the new characters and introduce the new tribe and the way of water and those characters. So that's a lot of characters to introduce. But I think James Cameron did a much better job in this movie at getting me to understand every character and their purpose and who they are better than he did in the first movie, actually, when I think I would say it's probably, yeah, less characters. But besides that, I think the CGI, it's phenomenal. It's some of the best, if not the best CGI that I've ever seen. It's beautiful. That's the one thing I wasn't worried about with this movie. I was worried about the characters, I was not worried about the CGI, and I was not let down. The CGI in this movie is phenomenal. It's top notch. It's James Cameron. He took years to perfect this movie, and it shows. He wasn't playing around, all right? He took his time making this beautiful masterpiece, and it looks beautiful CGI-wise. It's big. It's a blockbuster. That's what it is. It's a Christmas blockbuster. So, we got the characters. The 4 kids, I think they get plenty of screen time. Now, with all the screen time that they get, I think the one person that doesn't get enough screen time is the character played by Zoe Saldana. Hold on, give me a second. Neytiri. She was great in the first one, and for the scenes that she's in this movie, I think she's also great. I think for all the facial CGI, I would say she does the best. Like her expressions, her facial expressions in the Avatar look amazing. They're the ones with the most like details and the most expressions. So I think she does a great job. What I realized is that for the middle chapter of this movie, the middle chunk, the second act, when they're learning the way of water, I don't recall one time where I saw her learning the way of water like Jake did and like his kids did. I could be wrong, but I don't remember one time when it shows that she is learning anything. So by the third act, when you get the big final battle, you see everybody using the way of water. They're using all the stuff they learned, all the skills they learned. They're using it to their advantage. And I look back at her and I think, what did she learn? I don't recall seeing her learn anything, seeing her train in this new way, because she was very stuck to the forest ways. So seeing her, what did she learn? What's the journey she went through? And looking back at it, I can't think of anything that she went through. So I would say she was the character that got sidelined the most. Now, when it comes to the bad guys, there is okay, it's a bit of a spoiler, but again, it's been advertised everywhere, so I'm just gonna say it. Stephen Lang is back as that like crazy Marine. I forgot what his name was, but he's awesome. I love seeing him. I just love how over the top he is. He's almost this like over dramatic, just douchebag military Marine guy. He's almost like this cracked out meathead, and I think it's fun just how crazy he is and how wild he is. He's just such a He's such a piece of shit, but he does such a good job playing that role that I actually enjoy watching him. I enjoy seeing him in the screen time because he reminds me of like this 80s old school villain that's so over dramatic, over the top, but he's so much fun to watch. And that's exactly what he is. And in this movie, he's now become an avatar, and he's the same way. He's got the same mindset, and it's just... Every time he was on screen, I was having a blast. I was enjoying seeing him just being over top, it's just evil for the sake of being evil. That was fun to watch. I think I enjoyed, besides Zoe Saldana, I would say I enjoyed every character more in this movie than I did in the previous movie. So that's a good thing. I enjoyed the plot of this movie a lot more than I did in the first movie. I would say, yeah, this movie is better than the first one. I really enjoyed it a lot more. I was surprised by it. I had a blast. Oh, also, I saw this movie in standard. I know, not the best. James Cameron wanted us to see it in 3D Dolby. I'm sorry, I can't watch a movie in 3D. I can't stand it. Maybe one day I'll watch it, but for the first time I wanted to watch it in regular Dolby, but there is no option. At least, not around me. There was no option to watch it in regular Dolby. It's either IMAX 3D, Dolby 3D, or standard. And I can't watch 3D, so I started in standard. So I can't say this movie looked even better than anything in the world because I didn't see it in the full IMAX or Dolby. Hopefully they'll just have a regular Dolby where there's no 3D so I can watch it in that, because I really do want to watch it in that. I can tell it's going to be a perfect movie like that. But going back to the characters, the 4 kids, they were cool. But then when you get to the new tribe, and they also have teenage characters, I think you know exactly where this is gonna go. You get the there's a lot of bullying in here, and the plot itself isn't too crazy. It isn't anything unique. You're really here for the visuals and the action. The action is insane. It's James Cameron. I think he does a really good job with action. The last act was just a big, huge, fun action scene where it didn't feel cheap. It didn't feel like lazy CGI. It just felt like just awesome, badass, old school action that James Cameron can direct. Now, is this movie perfect? No, I don't think this movie's perfect. Is it too long? No, I wouldn't say it's too long. I think it's just enough to get to know every character. I don't think it's something I can rewatch every time. Not like the Batman, because those were around the same time, about 3 hours each. And I think the Batman is more rewatchable, maybe because I'm just a bigger fan of the Batman. I just like a darker movie, just that kind of style. But I also love, something that's fun, action-packed, like this movie was. But I can't say it's as rewatchable as the Batman, even though I really enjoyed both of them. This movie, it's a blockbuster. It's old school. It reminded me of just a classic 80s blockbuster action movie, something that he would have directed back in the day. But obviously, because he didn't have the technology, he waited until now. This movie, it's a lot of fun. It's a huge blockbuster. I know I keep saying blockbuster, but that's really what it is. It's a huge blockbuster. It's a huge crowd pleaser. The story isn't crazy. It's a good story, but we've seen the story before, so it's nothing groundbreaking. It's nothing different. The characters, while some of them, with the teenagers, when it comes to the bullying, some of it just had me rolling my eyes because you knew exactly where it was going and where the bullying was going to go. And just some of these characters, like, come on. I know, Hollywood says teenagers act like that, but I don't think teenagers are that harsh. I mean, some of the stuff that they did in this movie is pretty much murder. So, yeah, like some of these teenagers are just a bit too dramatic. But whatever. Besides that, villains, awesome. Good guys, awesome. Action, awesome. Visuals, awesome. Story, good. Not perfect, but good. It's a good story. It's still a good story. The only thing negative I would say is, yeah, I think Zoe Saldana, she really gets pushed to the back. I don't think she gets much of a character arc. Besides the visuals, her facial expressions being probably the best out of all of them, I don't think she gets enough screen time. I don't really think we get to spend enough time with her. But besides that, I had a blast with this movie. You've probably already seen it because the first one broke so many damn records. It's still the highest grossing movie, which is crazy. But this one, I don't doubt that it'll beat that record, but who knows? Marvel has changed the game. So who knows how many people are interested in seeing Avatar: The Way of Water. But I would say it's definitely worth the watch. If you can watch it in 3D, go watch it in 3D. I honestly kind of want to watch it in 3D now, because now that I've seen it once and I know what the movie is, I don't mind watching it again in 3D. I just can't do 3D. I hate it. But now that I've seen the movie and it's not as big, I'll see it a second time more relaxed. I think I can watch it in 3D. So I'll be excited to see how that looks. But definitely go watch Avatar: The Way of Water if you haven't seen it already. It's awesome. It's great. It's a big blockbuster with a good story. Not a perfect story, but a good story. It's definitely a great movie though. But as always, thanks for watching.